Never stop reading the Bible. Welcome to our explainer on the book of James. Now, this isn't just some dusty old letter about abstract theology. Oh no, this is a powerful, incredibly practical guide on what it actually means to put your faith into action, right here in the real world. So, first things first, let's talk about who wrote this and who it was for. The author is traditionally believed to be James, the brother of Jesus himself, a major leader in the early Jerusalem church, and he's writing to Jewish Christians who are scattered all over. Now, this context is so important because it really helps us understand why there's such a heavy focus on righteous living as the true way to fulfill God's law. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, then we're going to dive deep into the first two chapters. We'll talk about trials, what true religion really looks like, and that inseparable link between faith and action. Then we'll wrap it all up with a big takeaway. Okay, let's jump right in. Chapter 1 does not waste any time. It gets right to the heart of something we all deal with. Tough times, hardships. But the perspective it gives us is, well, it's the exact opposite of what you'd expect. It doesn't tell us how to get out of problems. It tells us how to embrace them. You see, instead of looking at a trial as some kind of punishment or a major setback, James totally reframes it as a gift from God. The text actually says to find joy in trials. Why? Because those are the very things that build patience and help our character mature. It's a whole new way of looking at struggle. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. James makes a super sharp distinction here. He says trials, those come from God, and their purpose is to make us stronger. But temptation, well, that comes from a totally different place. That bubbles up from within us, from our own desires. They are not the same thing at all, and mixing them up can be a really dangerous mistake. And the letter lays out this dangerous path with, honestly, chilling clarity. It all starts with a desire inside us. If we let that desire run wild, it leads to a sinful action. And if that action becomes a habit, the end result is spiritual death. It's a very clear cause and effect warning. So, here's the crucial pivot. After talking about all these internal struggles, James turns his attention outward to action. And he gives this stark warning against just being a passive listener, a faith that only exists in your head or your ears. That's not a complete faith, not even close. And this slide just nails the core of chapter 1. The difference between what James calls a worthless religion and a pure one is action. It's the difference between someone who just listens to a sermon and nods along and someone who goes out and actively helps orphans and widows and tries to live a good life. All right, let's move on to chapter 2. This is where things get even more practical and maybe a little uncomfortable as the whole theme of action gets taken to a whole new level. Chapter 2 just comes right out of the gate with a really direct and, uncomfortable question. It immediately calls out the act of showing favoritism, especially when it comes to money and how people look. I mean, James literally paints a picture for us. A rich person with fancy clothes and a poor person in rags walk into your gathering. If you roll out the red carpet for the rich person and tell the poor person to stand in the back, you haven't just been rude. According to James, you've broken the entire law of love, to love your neighbor as yourself. It's a huge failure of faith. And all this talk about favoritism, it's really just the warm-up act for the book's most famous, most powerful argument. James is about to make it crystal clear that just agreeing with a set of beliefs, just nodding your head and saying, "Yep, I believe that," is totally, completely not enough. And there it is. This one sentence is like a thunderclap right at the heart of the letter. It's an unforgettable metaphor, isn't it? Just like a body without a spirit is just a corpse, a faith that doesn't produce action, a faith that doesn't change how you live and how you treat people, it's just lifeless. It's dead. And to back up this pretty radical claim, James brings out the receipts right from the Old Testament. He points to two very different people. You've got Abraham, the father of the faith, who proved what he believed by what he was willing to do. And then you have Rahab, a non-Jew and a prostitute who showed her faith through her brave actions. For both of them, their deeds were the proof. Okay, so after all that, after these powerful challenges and arguments, what's the big idea? What's the one thing we're really supposed to walk away with from these chapters of James? It all boils down to this. Genuine faith isn't a passive noun. It is an active verb. It's a call for total integrity, where there's no gap between what we claim to believe in our hearts and how we actually live our lives, how we treat other people, and how we respond to the world around us. And so as we finish up, the text doesn't really give us a neat little bow to tie things up. Instead, it just leaves this question hanging in the air for every single one of us. It's not asking what you think or what you feel. It's asking what you will do. The challenge isn't just to find an answer, but to go out and live it. This explainer was brought to you by the Center Studio.